Welcome back to Clydesdale Media, where we bring you the best from the world of CrossFit. Podcasts, news, special interest, health, fitness. If you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button, hit the notifier so you're the first to know when we have new episodes. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Clydesdale Media Music. Clydesdale Media Music. This is the show that is just for me. I love to talk about music and I love to talk about it with my friends. And so I am super stoked to have with me my special friend, Ashley Cotler. Ashley, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Scott?
I am awesome. We both had birthdays this week.
We did. Capricorn season. Happy birthday.
Same to you. Yours was yesterday?
Mine was the 4th. Was that
4th.
Yesterday? No, that was Wednesday.
No, 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
It's all a blur. It's all a blur in this crazy world that we live in.
It's true. We look great for 25, don't we, Scott?
We do. Yeah, I probably look awful for 25, but great for 53. So we are going to count down the 5 greatest Broadway songs of all time. This I thought would be very easy because I'm very passionate about some musicals in my life. However, there's a lot of good songs.
So I feel like this is just kind of impossible because you gave 0 parameters, like 5 best Broadway songs, like musicality, 5 best Broadway songs, lyrics, 5 best Broadway songs, whatever. So I try to give myself some parameters, but I'm also biased because like there's shows that I've done that I love. So it's very difficult.
I agree. I do that on purpose because that way me and the guests can go in different directions and that's all fine. So I gave myself some parameters. It wasn't much, but I will say that one of my parameters was that it couldn't be a musical that was based on a songbook.
Oh.
Right? Because the songbook already existed, like Billy Joel's 52nd Street Broadway, right? All those songs were written well before they were ever considered for Broadway, and they're now incorporated in. So I did not pick any of those. And that's just my parameter.
Yeah.
You may have something different.
Yeah. The one parameter that I really didn't do was I didn't do anything. I mean, I picked one semi-contemporary one, but I guess like I'm dating myself because it's really not that contemporary anymore. But I didn't do anything really like written in the last 15 years-ish, because to me, like a lot of the songs previously were kind of like precursors as to like what helped get theater to where it is now. So a lot of like the songs, what I tried to do was kind of pick songs that were kind of paving the way to the newer contemporary songs. That makes sense.
Yeah, I would say one of mine is probably considered contemporary and the other 4 are not. Yeah, for sure. And the one contemporary isn't 15 years. It's probably 25 years.
Yeah, mine probably actually is too.
Yeah. So, I want to share with the audience why you are qualified to do this. So I'm going to pull up your Instagram.
Oh boy. Are you going to do that one that I just posted?
I am, because I actually played this for my family at Christmas. It was so good.
I sang it for my grandmother one Christmas because I sang it in college. And it's a sweet song. It's called Christmas Lullaby. And I remember singing in college. And this was something I just did quickly for my parents 3 years ago. It's like a little Christmas present. I never really intended to launch it. And this year I was like, oh, you know what? Just put it out there. Who cares?
Yeah. And for people who don't know, you have actually been in Broadway shows.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So
I got my musical theater major from the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. And then I moved out to New York City, where I spent the 4.5, 5 years traveling all around the country doing off-Broadway shows. Or I did do a couple off-Broadway concerts in New York City. And then I did tons of shows regionally around the country, which was really fun.
So I'm going to go ahead and play. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but at least get a taste of Cotler and her beautiful singing voice.
The reason I recorded this while I was pregnant was because this character is pregnant on Christmas. Comparing yourself to Mother Mary, who's pregnant with
I'll never have the power to control
your Ivy in the background.
or conquer half the world or claim the sun. I'll never be the kind who simply waves her hand and has a million people do the things I wish I'd done. But in the eyes of heaven, places are shown. I carry with me heaven's grand design.
Well, that is beautiful.
Thank you. It's a lot harder to sing with a child on top of your diaphragm.
I was more impressed with the children laughing and singing around you and that you were able to stay in tune.
Yeah. I think that's just a lot of all the years of live theater, you never really know what's going to happen, what's going to fall on you, what costume malfunction is going to happen. So you just kind of have to keep going with the flow. I guess it did help me for motherhood quite a bit. my musical theater training.
Yeah. My mom she's a singer. She sings barbershop. And when I played it for her, she was like, you can tell she's a pro because none of that stuff going on around her even affected her. So, well, I'm super excited to get to this. I'm super excited to hear what yours are. So let's go ahead and get started with number 5. And you are the guest, so I will let you go first.
Oh, now I might change around my order really quickly. I don't know. I'll keep it. I've changed it so many times, by the way. Okay, number 5. I Got Rhythm. George and Ira Gershwin, originally from a musical called Girl Crazy, but then later into Crazy for You, which I was lucky enough to play my senior year of college. I should actually hunt down some footage for that. Super fun show, total classic musical theater song. Starts off as a solo, bursts into the big, huge tap dance number with the whole ensemble. Super fun, super catchy. Everyone knows the lyrics. Everyone knows the melody. And just like coming from a show that your all-time classic musical theater, boy meets girl, boy messes up, girl forgives boy. They go on their merry way. So classic show, classic musical theater, written by George and Ira Gershwin. Iconic duo. Couldn't leave that out. So that was just like the start of classic, beautiful, glorious, happy, good ending musical theater.
So I'm going to go in a completely different direction. So my number 5 is from a 1982 off-Broadway production that gained so much popularity that it ended up on Broadway. And it is the song Feed Me, Get It from Little Shop of Horrors, otherwise known as Feed Me Seymour. And I have loved that song since I've been a little boy. Probably when the movie came out, and then I went back and saw it. It's probably one of the shows that have been done most by high school productions.
Okay. Yeah.
Across the land. But I love that. And in the movie, it's one of the Temptations. It's the bass from the Temptations who sings the song. It is awesome. I love that song. And I had to get it into my top 5.
He's so good. That's what's difficult too, right? Like there's some of these iconic songs that you love them so much because of the voice that's singing them. Right? Like, I mean, yeah, he is like the timbre of his voice is just so cool.
Well, and there were other songs in this musical that I love. I love
Yeah.
Dentist. I love
Suddenly
Suddenly
Seymour.
Seymour.
Yep, that was
Yes.
an
And I
honorable
love, and I had to write it down. Whoops, I picked up the wrong note. Okay. It was Mean Green Mother from Outer Space.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I
So,
know,
so
yeah.
yeah, love all those songs, but this is the one I had to put on my list.
Good one. Good choice. Good choice.
So number 4,
Okay, number 4. You go or I go?
you're my guest. You always go first.
Oh, okay, okay. Number 4, song from Rent, Seasons of Love. Just mainly because, again, remember how I was saying it was fun to pick songs that kind of treaded the way toward like the movement of theater now. And so I think like Rent and Jonathan Larson was like a huge piece and a huge component as to how and why Lin-Manuel like has written Hamilton, which is kind of like, again, rechanged the face of musical theater. He's, you know, made a new light in, made it fun and interesting again. It's not just the old corny, things. He's made Broadway fun. So Rent, Seasons of Love, the show in and of itself was really one of the first iconic shows that were written about really uncomfortable topics and made a musical about, right? Like it was about AIDS, it was about the housing crisis, it was about like, difficulties and issues of living in New York City and trying to make it work and dealing with AIDS and all that kind of stuff. So it was very heavy material. And Seasons of Love, like this is why I love theater, right? Because you always have to get through difficult situations and finding like the love and humor in it, right? Like in life in general. So Seasons of Love is kind of cool because the way in which it's written, it's not the leading roles. It's the leading roles are in it. The entire cast is in the show, but it's actually the ensemble that has all of the solos within the song. And then it's an ensemble piece, but like the leads are kind of more of like the ensemble and supporting in the song. And it's just a beautiful song of like, how do you measure a year? Like how 525,600 minutes is how many minutes are in a year, and how do you measure life and success and growth. And it's just like a very beautiful song that makes you think, makes you feel, makes you do what theater is supposed to have you do. And then like behind the scenes too, I just think it's really, really interesting that Jonathan Larson never actually saw his show on Broadway. He passed away, I think it was the morning of their first preview when it was on Broadway. It was a heart issue. So it was just, honestly, being the cast at that time to be able to sing this song in remembrance of him, and to really pave the way of like, okay, now let's, musical theater doesn't have to always be like fun and happy, right? We can talk about difficult situations, but I think the underlying reason why I picked this song is because, again, it gives you that like underlying hope and want and love, that carries us through any situation that's difficult. It also was one of the first shows that was based about like one of the first rock musicals. I don't think it was the first one, but one of the first ones that they, again, didn't have the classic pretty lilty this, that, and the other thing. It was, seeing rock and roll kind of on stage in front of you was something that was newer. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's why it's a beautiful song within a difficult setting, which I think is all still super relatable.
And it was one of my honorable mentions. It
Ah.
almost made the top 5. Almost. But not quite. So my number 4 is from a 1975 musical that was then revived in 1996. In 1997, it won 6 Tony Awards, including Best Revival.
Mm.
It is the longest running American musical on Broadway, the second longest running show, and it is All That Jazz from Chicago.
I had a hard time. I didn't have Chicago on my list, but I had a hard time not having Chicago on my list.
And as a boy who grew up in the 80s as a big Cheers fan, seeing BB Newirth as a sexy, sultry woman, not Lilith Crane, was very, very shocking
Uh-huh.
to me.
Uh-huh.
So that's why it stands out to me. Chicago is not my favorite musical, but I love that song.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's iconic. It's great.
Yeah.
It's got the dance, jazz, the sultry. It's great. It's great.
It made
Yeah.
jazz hands popular again.
I had an honorable mention of the Cell Block Tango. But this is what's hard. Cell Block Tango is like such a fun spectacle because of like the lighting and the choreography. So that's what's hard, right? Like you pick a song and you're like, ooh, but then you're like, wait a minute. It's really not like the song. It's kind of like this, the more of like the spectacle and stuff of it too, which is what made this hard. But yeah, all that jazz is fantastic. Perfect.
Yeah, my number one has a song in that musical that's more of a spectacle, but I went with the song over the spectacle. But we'll get to that in a couple picks.
Okay, so my number 3 is my least excited pick. It was the one that I've like changed a million times. I couldn't find like a happy good. I felt like one of the parameters I gave myself was a solo, right? Now, solo. Okay, do you do iconic solo? Do you do like ballad? Do you do power ballad? I mean, the list is endless. I have like literally 15 honorable mentions for this alone. But it's just hard. It's so hard. I picked Defying Gravity from Wicked. And the reason why was because a lot of my picks were like older classics, right? And so this musical obviously is my most contemporary one, which I got to look up when it came on Broadway because I think it is more than it's a while ago now.
Yeah.
But it's like the big power ballad, the big belt, the big, it's like riveting. It's a difficult song to sing, not a lot of like classically trained people can like belt out these really high notes really hard. And yeah, I mean, Wicked, the reason why I like Wicked is because so much of musical theater, right, evolved from vaudeville, and a lot of vaudeville was spectacle, right? And like the showgirl era and all this kind of stuff, follies and all that, like, all those pretty things. And Wicked really like kind of was on a production level, and I know this is shying away from songs, but like on a production level, like a way to like really make a huge spectacle again with like theater. It was kind of like a big punch because it's expensive to do all the flying and the lighting and the pyrotechnics and all that kind of stuff. It's not easy to do like on national tours and small theaters. Like that's why a lot of small theaters really don't do this production because it's incredibly expensive to do and hard to do safely and hard to do right. But anyway, I just think that Defying Gravity was a defying solo for kind of like the new age belting fun that has evolved.
So Wicked created a debate at my house for the holidays because my daughter has seen it on Broadway. She loves, that's her favorite musical of all time. Mm-hmm. But she would have picked the duet.
The popular duet?
Yeah. And I've never seen Wicked. So it's hard for me to place it. But it's her name, the famous Frozen lady.
Yes, Idina Menzel.
Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth. That duet, my daughter loves, and so she was debating that was better than Defying Gravity. So this is the stuff that has caused over our holidays is these debates. But my number 3, I said that Chicago was the second longest running show on Broadway. This is from the longest running show on Broadway, which is actually closing in April of this year.
Yep.
And this one is Music of the Night from Phantom of the Opera.
I'm glad you picked an Andrew Lloyd Webber because I didn't.
So I never saw Phantom. I heard the soundtrack first, and I fell in love with the song without even seeing the musical. Then when I saw it, then the song went up several notches for me. And when I was in good voice, not with a chronic sinus infection, this was my song to sing. I loved singing this song. And so for me, and actually my top three are all songs I love to sing. So Music of the Night, and I am having a brain fart right now. The main guy that sings it, Michael Crawford. Michael Crawford, amazing voice. This had to make my list. And so it kind of rests right there in the middle, because the next two have more personal feeling or meaning to me than this. But I love this song technically. Just, it's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that pick. And I mean, Andrew Lloyd Webber too. It's like in his career, it's it's unbelievable what he did. People who don't know musical theater, they all know something from Phantom of the Opera. They all know, Memory from Cats. They all, people love and flock to Joseph, the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. So like he's definitely done so much, and probably like the most known of his musical theater songs probably across the board. But yeah, beautiful. I actually, when I was really little, one nostalgic moment that I had about Phantom of the Opera was the national tour had gone through Green Bay, and I worked cleaning condos in the summertime. And actually the Phantom was staying at the condos that I was cleaning at the summertime. So I got his autograph and I got to meet him, and then I got to go see him in the national tour. And as a little girl, like it was so cool, to meet the Phantom.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. All right, two?
Number two.
Okay. I don't think anyone's going to know this one. So I had to pick something. Everyone knows the musical Sweeney Todd. I had to pick something from Stephen Sondheim because Stephen Sondheim is a musical genius. Stephen Sondheim is to musical theater as William Shakespeare is to literature. Like the way that he writes, and it's really, really interesting. So my number two is Kiss Me from Sweeney Todd, and it actually didn't make the movie, and I was really sad about it. And I didn't really know why it didn't make the movie, because we had done a lot of like character study and scene study classes in college. And so I had done this scene with a scene partner. It's a duet, and it's one of the most difficult songs to sing, I think, in musical theater and just in general. So the reason why I think like just musically it's so cool and interesting is because so Stephen Sondheim writes like Shakespeare, right? Like you don't get a whole lot of artistic freedom as a performer to like sing these roles and do these roles like as you see it, because like how he writes it is like how you're going to sing it and how you're going to do it. So the character Joanna, it's a duet between Joanna and Anthony, and Joanna is locked up in her little cage house thing, and she sings a solo called Greenfinch and Linnet Bird, where she's like flighting all around, and she's like very flighty. She's not grounded. And so all of her music is very like all over the place, really high pitched. Like that solo for her is kind of like defining who she is as a character. So the duet is similar to that. She's singing like super high and all around and all over the place. And I just remember when I was in college singing, I'm like, when do I breathe? When do I breathe? When do I breathe? When do I breathe? Because I have to hit all these really high, fast, short notes. But then like the duality of her with her love interest, Anthony, who is pretty much the most grounded person in the play, in the musical. He sings, and it's a theme throughout the whole show of Sweeney Todd. He sings this, I feel you, Joanna. And it's, to me, that is one of like the most beautiful melodies in all of theater. So he's singing like just this beautiful, grounded, like long, you know, grounded, gorgeous melodies while she's like up here. And it's just like the duality of that song is just kind of shows your, you know, how much of a genius Sondheim really is, to be able to like make two totally opposite people fit somehow in a song and fit together. And I don't know, like I just think it's a beautiful song. It's incredibly difficult. Like you can listen to this song over and over and you're like, the time signature keeps changing. And it's just like, and it's all for different reasons. So like the more you listen to it, the more you're like, whoa. Like he gets these beautiful melodies, he gets character development in it. He gets how they somehow fit together with these two totally opposite backgrounds. And it's just, I don't know. It's just a really cool duet. And obviously there is a laundry list of incredible duets in musical theater, but I just thought like this one kind of encompassed so many different things of the music, the difficulty, the character development, the duality between the two contrasting characters that somehow work. It was that to me. That's my number 2.
So that's funny because my number 2, Stephen Sondheim was the lyricist for. This is my favorite musical of all time.
Ooh.
This one, and there are 4 masterwork songs in this musical. Now, again, it is my favorite of all time. So I had to pick one. And I picked the one that was my first ever solo performance in front of people.
Oh.
And that one is that my mom, I told you, sings barbershop. They would do a yearly show. And one year they had a family talent show where members of the families would come up during their intermission and they would do a talent show. And so my mom, the lead in my mom's quartet, and I did a medley from this musical. I was still in high school, so like 15 or 16 years old. And my number 2 song is Maria from West Side Story.
I'm so glad you picked that, because that was on my list too. And I was like, I can't not put it, but there's no space for it. So I'm really glad. Yeah, gorgeous.
But masterworks were that, Tonight, Somewhere, and One Hand, One Heart. All One Hand, One Heart was sung at my wedding by the person I did the medley with. So at 16, I did a medley with her. She sang at my wedding. And so, yeah. And then there's so many good songs in that. When You're a Jet, Officer Crumpkey,
America,
all of it. I love it. And I've seen it probably 50 times. It's something my mom and I always watch together. And so it had to be that one because it was my first public performance with a solo.
Yep. That's awesome.
So yeah, Sondheim and Bernstein was the musical writer for that.
Classic.
And gosh, it is the best. Best.
Yeah,
and it is very old school.
Yep.
Romeo and Juliet.
Yep.
Done in a 50s way. Yep. And so it's just amazing.
And
so that is my number 2.
Be timeless,
And there was a good chance that was going to be my number 1. My number 1 and my number 2 could flip flop depending on the day. So
So West Side Story is your favorite musical.
it is.
I unfortunately did not put a song from my favorite musical on my list because it's hard.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Well, and my other restriction was I could only pick one song per musical.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So only one could make the list. So now we're to number one.
Number 1. So I love this show. It has a very special place in my heart because I got to perform it twice. I performed it once up in Beverly, Massachusetts, and it was probably single-handedly one of like the greatest, most beautiful experiences of my life. I was in the ensemble and I understudied all of the female ensemble roles, which is incredibly tricky because actually one girl did go out, and then all of the women just randomly have like little solos interjected throughout the show. So the issue was, um, one person goes out and you're like, okay, which spider web of solos is she doing in the show? Um, so unbelievable experience. I mean, I was so unbelievably lucky. I was in a cast of tons of people that had been on Broadway or that had gone on to do Broadway shows. So like the cast was incredibly well-rounded. We were up in Beverly, Massachusetts during the fall. So we got to see the colors change. It was the year the Red Sox won the World Series in Boston. We were in Boston that night. Like start to finish, it was just I've some of the people that have been my lifelong forever friends I established from that show, my roommates there. But Les Mis, it's a beautiful show. And of course, there's a million songs in that show too that you can pick. But I think overall, the song that I chose is One Day More. Because, it's such a complete song in the fact that it does start out with solos from all of the leads. So you have like, you're getting like inklings of them and their lives and the pieces of the world that they're in individually. And then all of a sudden the whole entire ensemble comes in. And it's a historical retelling of the French Revolution. You've got these people gathering together. Obviously it's a very sad ending because it's called The Miserables.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. There was one time, like we overheard someone. They're like, "Well, this is just so sad." It's like, well, the title of the show is The Miserables. So it's like, but anyway, it's like it's the best going into intermission song possible. Again, it's like filled with hope, filled with love. War now versus war years ago is such a different thing in how how we do it and how it unifies people. But I just think like it is just such a beautiful world of patriotism, of coming together, of love, of hope, of them standing on that line and not knowing what to expect and uniting together, and just the most beautiful, glorious songs and melodies. And I mean, your heart can't be not beating when that song is on. I mean, in my opinion. So anyway.
So my number one, gosh, I may have broke my own rule because I said that I wasn't going to do a songbook. So this didn't start on Broadway, but all the music was written for this story. And so I saw this here in Columbus, and it opens up with the greatest spectacle I've ever seen in musical theater. And I did not pick this song, but it starts with the song Circle of Life, with all of the animals marching down the aisles, flying around the stage. It is awe-inspiring what that opening is. Almost as good as the movie where all the animals are coming to Pride Rock, and that's what they're simulating with these big, huge puppets or marionettes, whatever you want to call them, coming to the stage. And you just have goosebumps everywhere. But my favorite song from The Lion King is "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?"
Mm.
The love song of Simba and Nala, and it is so well done, written by Elton John. He is amazing. And I would, as much as I love Elton John, the performer, I think he was at peak songwriting for Lion King.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, all the songs are gorgeous. So
They
gorgeous.
are. And they all fit the story so well. This song was also sung at my wedding, and so it means a lot to me. It is a song I love to sing. I have performed it in front of people several times. If I, again, did not have a chronic sinus infection, I would hum a few bars of that. But I love this song. I can listen to it over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song. Yeah, for
And
sure.
that is my only contemporary pick of the bunch. But it was mid 90s is when it went to Broadway. And so it's still 20, almost 30 years.
It's crazy.
Gosh, I'm old.
I've never seen it on Broadway. I've never seen it in theater, actually. I've never seen Lion King in theater. Mm-mm.
We need to go.
So I wonder if you know my favorite show.
So what I know about you is, so when I came to your house, you sang from a musical for me.
Did I?
That you did. Eliza Doolittle from My Fair Lady.
Oh, it
So
wasn't.
that's
It's not
all
my
I know.
favorite,
No.
but I understudied.
Okay.
I understudied Eliza, and what a fun, amazing, beautiful role that is, like to do and to perform. That's a great show. I mean, Get Me to the Church on Time. That's another big like show stopping number, and I mean, I could have danced all night. I mean, yeah, another great show. But my favorite
Bruce
show.
Wayne is guessing Cats.
What? Not Cats. Nope. Not a cat person.
No, me neither.
Any
Not a
capacity.
fan of that show. The music is good.
I never saw it.
Show, yeah.
I never saw it. I mean, I know the music.
Travis is asking, did Justin sing for me? Justin did not sing for me that day.
You know, a goal of mine, because my entire family could do Les Mis. I could be Fantine, Ivy could be Cosette. Justin could really do well. He says now that his voice has gotten a lot lower. He used to be Jean Valjean, but he's like, now I'd have to do Javier. And then Jax would be an adorable little Gavroche. So I'm like, maybe we can do a little Cotler Les Mis song medley.
So I will say, Travis, when I went to their house, it was their old house, not their new house. But they did have a piano and guitars on the wall. So it is a very musical family. But I have heard Justin's album, and I actually have it in a playlist because I like it so much.
We'll just have to.
And now Bruce is guessing High School Musical.
No, not High School Musical. I'm too old for that.
Yeah, my daughter was into that big time, and I am sick of it still to this day.
So my favorite.
When are we starting?
The very first. Ooh, that's a good idea. When are we starting Clydesdale karaoke? I like that.
There we go.
Mine was the very first. My favorite musical is the first one I ever did, that I ever performed. And it's not a common one that's done, especially in high schools. I was in 6th grade selected to do the High School Musical. Any other guesses?
6th grade, female. Oliver Twist.
No, good guess though. It wasn't Oliver, and it wasn't Annie. It was The Secret Garden.
Okay.
And the score in that show is so unbelievably beautiful. Like, I played Mary Lennox. I played like the little girl. It's based off of the book. But the score in it is absolutely stunning. And I actually have only ever seen once it done professionally. One of my close friends was in it, so we went and saw her, and it was so fun to see a professional version of it when we had done it in high school. But it's such a beautiful show. Mandy Patinkin, do you know Mandy Patinkin?
Yes, I do.
He is such a stud. There's a male duet in there that I was wanting to put on my list called Lily's Eyes. And it's these two brothers who are in love with the same woman. And Mandy Patinkin can do no wrong in my book. That voice is, I love him. Love him, love him.
Well, I will run through my honorable mentions because I only have a handful. Yep. And then I know you have like a novel.
Sure do.
So mine are The Impossible Dream.
That's on mine.
Don't Cry for Me, Argentina.
That's on mine.
Big Spender.
That's one I missed, but that's a fantastic one.
And I'm Telling You, I'm Not Gonna.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm Not Going.
I'm Not Going. Yep.
From Dreamgirls.
Yep.
And Jennifer Hudson took that to a new level.
Oh.
The original one is great, but she went to a new level with that song.
Oof.
And for people that don't know, that was a musical before it was a movie.
Yep.
It was a musical in 1981, and then became a movie much later with all the famous people.
Yeah, and I actually really liked that movie musical because a lot of movie musicals I don't love. Like sometimes it just doesn't translate as well, I don't think. I know
they did a great job with that one.
Yeah, I thought they did an unbelievable job with that one. Yeah, I didn't have the Dreamgirls one in there, but I had the majority of the other ones that you had in there. All right. I had similar. I had a couple of the same ones. Send in the Clowns Company.
Beautiful. That was close.
Beautiful song. Back to Before from Ragtime. I just because I sang that a ton, it got me so many callbacks. I sang the last like 16 bars of that song. It got me a lot of callbacks. Suddenly Seymour was on there. Old Man River. If I Were a Rich Man. I Dreamed a Dream. Cabaret. Corner of the Sky. These are mostly like solos. And then this one's just funny. It's not really a great song. I don't know if have you ever seen the musical, The Full Monty?
I have not.
Okay, well,
I have a funny story about the movie.
Do you? What's that?
I'll let you finish and then I'll come in.
So The Full Monty, I have the way that show gets the audience involved, whether you're a guy, a girl, young, middle, or old, it is such a beautiful show because it's just a handful of blue collar, normal, everyday people with hilarious songs and incredibly relatable marital, issues that are funny, and then it's just you just the progress of the show, you just learn to love them so much. And by the end, when they actually do the Full Monty at the very end of this Let It Go song, everyone is just howling. And it's just the energy that show brings. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. So much fun.
So in the movie, they dance to You Sexy Thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that song from the 70s?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
Does that make the musical? That's it.
Well, that's not in the musical.
Okay. So the guy who wrote that song worked in the mailroom at where I work.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a fall from grace.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. Is he still working in the mailroom?
I think he's retired now. But he was still in a band, with some of the Ohio Players. They like formed a band after their both successes, and they were awesome. Like anytime they were playing in town, it was definitely worth going to see.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was still kind of a side gig for him because he was doing the mail.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, it's great.
Yeah.
What about Cabaret?
I didn't put anything in there. I think the biggest surprise for me is another one of my favorite musicals is Jesus Christ Superstar.
Another Andrew Lloyd Webber.
But none of the songs elevated into where I could put them even in a top 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
did you know with Andrew Lloyd Webber, with Joseph, that he wrote that show based on either a dare or a bet? Someone bet him that he couldn't write a show that encompassed all the different types of musical, all the different types of songs. Like, so there's a country song. There's, he did all the different types of. So that's, and I'm pretty sure he won the bet. That's what Joseph was named off of. That to write a show with the song and all the different musical genres, and he did. And that's like a very loved music. I played the narrator in that one summer, which was fun.
Yeah, I've never seen Joseph.
Joseph is it's a popular one, very popular one. There's one also, and I would kind of define it more of a play with music, not so much of a musical, but I saw it on West End. And Blood Brothers. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. That is, I would define it as a play with music, because it's like more so like character development and more. It's a good musical if you like acting chops, and it's awesome. It's a great show.
Yeah. So my love of theater came really, like, my mom and I watched old movie musicals, and then my senior year in high school, we didn't have senior trips or anything, but the English department was going to Stratford on the Lake in Canada for a Shakespeare festival.
Oh, cool.
And so I said, what easier way to get permission from your parents to go to Canada, where the drinking age is under 18, than to say I'm going to a Shakespeare festival. And so my buddies and I, we went, and the first musical I ever saw live was My Fair Lady. And it was at this Shakespeare festival. And then I loved it. And then when we moved to Columbus, the company I worked for had tickets for all the musicals, and you could put your name in for a drawing, and apparently nobody wanted to go. And so my wife and I would get tickets for everything coming. And they were like second row seats. So we would go to everything. And then when I left that company, we started doing that on our own. We would just, with my mom and my nephew and we would just buy tickets for the season and rotate who got to go. And then we had a kid, and all that stopped.
No, that stopped. I know, I'm excited that I think I'd be starting to get to the age now where I think I could bring her to see her first show. My first show was Sound of Music, and I saw Maria Osmond play Maria, which was really cool and just magical. I just, it's live theater is magical. I mean, I know that they do a lot of stuff, on movies now, and they recreate it. It's just like the feelings though that you get are not the same as sitting there watching it live. And also it's kind of fun because it's like I so remember like certain feelings of how I felt like with Blood Brothers or Miss Saigon or doing certain things. But then on the flip side, like performing some of these amazing shows, like the feelings that you get from the audience in reverse is like also really, really neat. Like I think probably one of the most impactful moments that like it happened every single night when I was one of the Kit Kat girls in Cabaret. And that show is like, I was really lucky to do that show too, because it's again, it's another historic retelling. The Kit Kat Club is symbolism for what's going on during the rise of Hitler and Nazi Germany at the time. So it starts off all like fun and games and cute and playing and happy and excited. And then all of a sudden it just slowly gets dingier and darker and all that kind of stuff. And there's one moment, it's the first number in the second act where all the Kit Kat girls come on and we start like dancing. I couldn't pick this one because it's not a song. It's just pretty much like a dance number. And the song starts as a kick line. So, and everyone in the audience, and you can see the smiles, and everyone's like, oh, so cute, fun, big kick number. And then all of a sudden we turn around and we put a Hitler stash on, and the kick line turns into the Nazi march. And honestly, like every night, it just literally felt like you sucker punched absolutely everyone in the stomach. And the air just pulled out of the theater. And I think like as a performer, like to feel that kind of impact is like, always why I loved it. And I loved that show too, because we did not have a curtain call. I hated curtain call. Like I got into theater to make people think and feel. And I think like doing that show for me was like so rewarding, because in that instant you could just feel people be like, oh my God, I fell for it, kind of thing, and like I said, just got sucker punched with the wind out of their sails. And also I've done other shows too, where it's like you do a number and like the excitement and the energy, you feel it in live theater. It's harder to do that when you're on your couch at home.
So let me ask you this. You lived in New York City. You had access to the greatest live entertainment in the world. Now you live in Vegas. Are they similar, or do you miss Broadway?
So what's funny? When I was auditioning for shows, like I'd audition for like a lot of Broadway shows and stuff like that, and I'd sit on those audition benches for a long time, and those walls are paper thin, so you can hear everyone that goes in there and auditions. And I got to be honest, like there were more than a handful of times where I would sit there and I would listen to one or two people go into that audition room, and I would just be like jaw on the floor. And then I would go and I'd watch the show on Broadway months later when it opened. And I was so sad. And I was like, wait a minute. The talent that I heard sitting on those audition benches, and this is who you picked? Like, that's, it's the politics of everything. And I think that's really like and truly like where theater, I lost a lot of my love for it, because it wasn't about putting like the best people in the best positions. And it's like, and then I think that's why I turned to CrossFit, because I was like, I started, I competed that one year, but I was like, I can go, and this is the weight that's on the bar, and that's the time. And there's no politics. Like, that's what it is. And I think like when I slowly started getting out of theater, I remember calling my mom one time when I had flown back and forth. I was doing a show at Coastal Center of Art in South Carolina, at Art Center of Coastal Carolina. And I flew back twice within a span of 4 days because I was up for Belle and Beauty and the Beast on the national tour. And I walked out of that room, and it was a situation where it was like, I knew I was the best person for that role. Because when you get that far along, everyone stays in the room and you sing and dance and do your lines with the top 4 people. And I walked out and I knew I was the best person for the role. And it kind of felt like everyone knew that too, but I didn't get it. And I knew I didn't get it. And I walked out, I called my mom. I said, I love it, but it just doesn't love me back. And, that's the grind, right? And so, that was kind of like when it lost a lot of its luster for me, when I was just like, I don't know the right people in the right places. It had nothing to do with talent. And all of the agents that I'd ever auditioned in front of too were like, listen, we love you, but we are full of capacity of 5'4" Caucasian females with long, dark brown hair. And, unfortunately, that's the reality of it, but, so, it was hard. There was a lot of times where then I unfortunately stopped going to shows for a really long time, because I just knew so many people that could do those roles so much better, and so that kind of got a little bit hard. But overall, like, what theater is and what it does and what it's supposed to do, I think is such a beautiful thing. It forces us to think, it forces us to love, it forces us to, and unfortunately, I just think like the new trend of entertainment in all capacity is just hitting the people over the head with reality shows. This is what you should think, this is what you should feel. And it doesn't really allow people to, within their own space, develop the thoughts and the feelings on their own anymore. And so I think like that's one thing that has evolved and that has gotten sad. And that's why we've seen like a trend away from theater. So it'll be interesting.
But you live in Vegas now, where it's not like the people on the stage are generally there by themselves, or with it's one or two people that have worked their way to earn their spot on that stage. Do you get a chance to go see now? Yeah. Do you get a chance to go see that kind of stuff?
Well, so I think, sorry, I totally didn't even answer your question before. I think the culture here,
I'm used to that. I've been married for 25 years.
The culture here is very different than New York, and that I do miss. Like there is New York has ballets and art institutions and all that kind of stuff. And it's more of an artistic culture. Whereas here, the culture is a little different. The entertainment is a little different. So I wouldn't really say that the culture here is as artistic. A lot of it is, like America's Got Talent, right? Where like they find one or two people that have like a show or like a headline, and those people are what goes on the strip for a show, like David Copperfield. And then they have like their big transient artists, like obviously Adele is here right now on her residency. So like when it comes to art and theater, that type of culture is not big here. There's the Smith Center, but it's kind of like any other transient city where they get national tours that kind of come through. So there isn't a real big, I wouldn't say like artistic theater type culture here yet. But Vegas is changing. Vegas is growing, like they're increasing their sports teams left and right, which is cool. There's lots of great construction going on. But the fact that the Smith Center is somewhat new with getting the theater through, I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that would continue to grow in the future here, which is kind of cool because then it's like an untapped market too, and then also like the type of art and things is like the Cirque du Soleil performers. It's more spectacle. It's a lot more spectacle and less artsy, the culture here, I would have to say. But I also haven't had a chance to really get out and see a whole lot of it.
But you're glad you moved?
Oh, we love it here. We love it here. Yeah, so glad. Yeah, I mean, I definitely miss my friends in New York. I do not miss the weather at all. I do not miss the cost of living at all. And the safety there has changed a lot too. So I think with now New York lost a lot of its luster for us when we started our family. Just the heavy existence, getting around, the expense, trying to find parking, all that kind of stuff. So here it's kind of like, what's great is that we have the strip, we have the really, really good, nice restaurants, we have shows, nice shows. They're just a little bit different, not quite as artistically cultured as New York, but we've got shows. So it's kind of like we've got the suburban lifestyle of living, which makes the ease of raising a family really fun. And you go 15 minutes west from our house, and we've got Red Rock and Mount Charleston, some of the best like most beautiful hiking and rock climbing in the world. And then you go 15 minutes east and you're on the strip to go to, you've got like the city life if you want it, with the ease and beauty of nature and with the ease and beauty of getting around and having kids. So that in mind, everyone should move to Las Vegas.
You always have to get that in there.
It's great. We love it. We absolutely love it. I mean, it's been 50s the last like couple weeks, and we've been like, it's so cold.
I don't want to hear that.
We're such babies.
we get to 50s and I'm in my Speedo.
Yeah.
So I also heard that you have one of the best CrossFit training camps in the country.
We happen to have one of the best training camps, which we're actually having an actual underdogs camp, January 28th and 29th here. And we're almost closing up registration for that, but it's going to be an incredibly cool camp. I'm excited. There's been a lot of underdogs that are coming that I've been in contact with, but really only on Instagram. So I'm super excited to meet them in person. We've got tons of really great like partners and companies coming in. And we have like a great lineup for just the breakout sessions. So our goal with the camp, which is really exciting to me, because Justin and I, like, we can't really just immerse ourselves in one aspect of someone's life. Like, it's really true. People become our family, and so part of like creating underdogs has been that. And then with the camp, it's not just entirely about fitness. Our goal with the camp is to help athletes in both fitness and in life. So because of the timing of the season, the camp fitness side of it is going to be geared more toward like the open prep and open, just because that's where we're at in the season right now. And that's going to be the most beneficial for athletes. But then we've also got, life things. We've got Ben Beck from Beck Bodie, who owns a wealth management company that I work with, giving a lecture on personal finance. We're going to have Patrick Clark come out and talk about the benefit of building and creating a brand and being sponsored and how to create your brand for yourself. We're going to supply. We've got a media guy who's going to be offering like pictures and shoots and reels and stuff like that for the athletes that come, and kind of talk about the benefit of why is this important? How do you create your brand? How do you help that create your finances for your future? So we're kind of putting all these pieces together. We've got some great sponsors. Our Smart Gear is coming, who is one of my all-time favorites, Dave, as you know, and Paleo Power Meals. Like, so we're really excited to kick that off. It's our first one, so we will see how it goes. Hi, you want to come say hi? And we'll get a special guest appearance from Jax. What do you have, spaghetti all over your face? So yeah, and then February, on with the season, right? Oh, I can't hear you. Did I lose you?
I hit a button.
Oh, that's okay.
It's okay.
So yeah, and then
I almost made it through the whole show without muting myself, and now the listeners are going to give me a lot of shit right now for that. So that's awesome, and I'm super excited for the season.
Yeah.
I love your athletes. I love you guys. You guys know that. I can't wait to get back out there again. I want to thank you so much for jumping on and doing this. This was so much fun.
You're going to be in Wadapalooza, right? I won't be there, but you'll be there, right? Know.
I will be there.
Right.
Yeah, we're doing 3 shows live on the stage. One of your friends is being interviewed by us on Friday, Miss Carrie Pierce.
Right? She's a good one.
And we need to make this a yearly birthday week event. We do something fun every year, birthday week. And there's the man. We got her down from 68 to 20.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Hey, come on.
With that, Ashley Smith, thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy New Year, happy birthday, and have fun at Wadapalooza.
Yeah, same to you. Happy birthday yesterday or 2 days ago, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Bye, Scott.
Bye.